Hi, everybody. My name is Jude Schoenfeld. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the coordinator of LGBTQ plus programs at the New York City Department of Education. I'm super excited to be here today and have this discussion about NIMONA, a wonderful film that I'm excited to talk about. So I'm going to introduce who we have here one by one. ND Stevenson, the creator of NIMONA, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy
Thanks so
that
much
you're
for having us.
here. Karen Ryan, a producer of the film. Welcome. Hi,
Hello.
Karen.
Hi.
Hello. Eugene Lee Yang, who is the talent, a voice actor. Who Ambrosius Goldenloin is the character that you play in this film, which is just really fun. So thank you all for being here and having this conversation with me. I have a few questions for individually, one-on-one, and then I want to talk as a group because I just really want to hear your thoughts. I'm excited about this film. So, Andy, first question is actually for you. As the creator of this popular graphic novel, I want you to tell us about the character Nimona and kind of like how she came to you. What was that development like? And then also kind of like where did that trans allegory about her character come from? Would love to hear the backstory to that.
Yeah, so NIMONA came about when I was a student in college, and I was just at a place where I was really struggling. I didn't really have any outlet for the feelings I was having. I didn't really understand the feelings I was having, and so she became this character who started popping up in my sketchbooks a lot, and she kind of embodied a lot of the like messy feelings that I was feeling at the time. But she had this like punk rock energy, this kind of like, fuck you, like, and then very like also like she was a shapeshifter. Like that is something I've always been drawn towards for, reasons that at the time I was unaware of. But just the idea that like, she was not constrained by her body. She could be anything she wanted to be. But then when she was in her, most familiar form, that was the body that she chose to be in. That's how she wanted to look. So she was really kind of like, I guess, like a power fantasy to me. And it kind of became a vessel for venting a lot of these the angst that I was feeling and going through at the time. And I really poured, I don't know, it became the whole webcomic became this way of just working through those feelings and getting them out there to begin with. And it ended up, really being transformative in my life because for lots of reasons, but because, it found this audience of people who related to her as well. I wasn't sure at first, like I felt really alone and I thought maybe I was the only one going through these things. And then this character kind of like she connected with more people besides me. And so as a result of making this webcomic and putting it out there, I started to like build community with other people who understood. It would be years before I realized, how much transness was brimming in this story. I really it was very important to me that when I designed her that she was really curvy and chubby, but not like in a femme fatale like type of way, because I just was not finding that character and I was looking for that character. And so she became kind of a way of dealing with what I now know was dysphoria, just this discomfort in my body and wishing I could turn into things the way she could. But like also trying to reclaim that. So a lot of it makes a lot more sense in hindsight, but at the time it was just sort of vomiting feelings onto the page and hoping it turned out to be anything. So yeah, it's like I'm able to look back at that maybe a little bit with clearer eyes than I had at the time.
Yeah. Well, it seems that, and this film has already had a huge impact, and I know it will continue to have. So the character definitely has that alignment for a lot of people. I saw a lot of myself in Nimona as well. So I really appreciated that character and how you developed her. I have a question. This is for Karen. I wanted to know about the process of just getting a queer animated film in front of audiences. I read some of the articles about this film, and something the Rolling Stones said is that there were so many hurdles of getting this film to the big screens, including a studio acquisition, a whole pandemic since the start of producing this film, and then a studio closure. So there was a lot. And I'm curious, just from your side, Karen, what that was like, to the pushback you must have received to get this in front of audiences.
Yeah. So we have about 3 hours,
Yeah,
right?
roughly.
Yeah. No, this movie, I mean, movies are hard. Like, to make a movie, they're all so difficult. And we had all of these extra things going on just in terms of making this film in 2020, the pandemic. But what was happening is we were making the movie at Blue Sky Studios, which is an animation studio that was in Greenwich, Connecticut. And the studio was incredible. It's all these people who, a lot of them had worked there for their whole careers. So it was this very tight knit community of artists. And we were working on NIMONA, 2020 hit, and we were all home, just kind of doing this from home, but all rallying behind this film. And you really felt the studio just kind of like, just everyone was so into it. We were so excited about it. And the Blue Sky was owned by Fox at the time. And then Disney came in, merged with Fox, and we became a Disney movie all of a sudden, which was kind of exciting because we had so much reach with that company. But this movie, we mostly just didn't want to screw up what ND had done with NIMONA. We were trying to keep her true to the comic and refuse to compromise. And because of that, we were shut down. Like, we were canceled by Disney. We were dead in the water. And I think it's a testament to how important this story is and how many people throughout the industry see themselves in NIMONA and believe in this and believe that it's important, that we were able to turn the movie around, and they couldn't keep us down. So Megan Ellison and Annapurna saw the reels. She joined forces with us, and then we picked up and just kind of kept going and made this movie happen again. And both Eugene and ND were super helpful in all of that and took a lot of very difficult phone calls for me about all of the hurdles we were facing. But it should not be this hard. It shouldn't be that difficult to tell a story like this. But what I've found incredibly encouraging is the community of people who wouldn't let us fail. And it's been so humbling to see this industry rally behind this movie, because it means so much, especially right now when there's so much going on that's trying to silence voices and take away just basic human rights. And so we never, it wasn't a question. We weren't going to give up.
Thank you. Yeah. It also seemed like I was, I read that you were like talking with people about their personal experiences also to kind of get backing for the importance of this film. And it seems like it was a real community effort too. So yeah, I appreciate you speaking on that. Eugene, I really loved Goldenloin. I just thought it was a great character. I'm curious, like, do you see yourself at all in Ambrosius Goldenloin? And what about this character did you read and you're like, yeah, that's important for me to play? What about him kind of struck you?
Well, jokingly, when I was first approached to be cast, I was familiar with ND's graphic novels. So I thought, of course, they would see me as Ambrosius Goldenloin. He's a total jerk. But the evolution of his character from page to screen, what I actually really valued the most was the directors, Nick and Troy, ND, everyone involved, the producers, really wanted to foster a very genuine relationship between him and Ballister. I think that that's really core to believing the authenticity of the love that they have, because that's something that's so wonderful about their setup, is that there really is no setup. They're just boyfriends. So there's no question of a really will they, won't they. There's a lot of other political and crazy stuff happening around them. But you know, the primary thing for Goldenloin is that he loves his man and he just wants to get back with him. And if that trust can see them through it, regardless of this strange shape-shifting punk creature that's potentially coming between them, I really try to play it more as just like, who's this new girl? Who is she to you? But I'm glad that really came across, and I feel like a lot of fans of the film really responded to the tenderness that both Ambrosius and Ballister have for one another, and also the really wonderful relationship that kind of has that sort of father-child surrogate feel of NIMONA and Ballister as well. So it really does end up feeling like, and I know this is often trite, but that sort of found family aspect, you can't get more found than these three like really disparate rebel type characters. And I think that's really wonderful and very queer.
Yeah, I also just love that relationship that you know, Goldenloin and Ballister had, it was like I was kind of waiting for something to sour, and you know, like that there was some pureness about their relationship, that kind of like through line that got you to the end, and I just really appreciated. I appreciated that and the way that was played by you. I just like, it was so tender. Yeah, I loved it. Andy, a question I had about the world that you created. I found it so specific. Like, it was sci-fi. You had like the sci-fi futurism and then that like medieval element. And I found that to be so interesting. I was curious kind of like where that came from for you.
Yeah. So it really started out more of a like traditional superhero world at the beginning. The very first idea of it was way more just like superhero, supervillain, and sidekick. But you know, it felt a little generic to me. And I really like drawing knights and armor and swords and things and dragons. So I just decided to mash them up together. And honestly, that's about as much thought as I put into it at the time. You know, the first couple pages were done like at 5 a.m. the night before it was due for a class of mine. So it was all very just like seat of the pants, drawing squares, drawing stuff in the squares and hoping that's anything. But yeah, it was something like these were the things I really enjoyed drawing. I liked drawing kind of like futuristic sci-fi stuff, like short of spaceships and robots. But I liked drawing, you know, I didn't like drawing horses and like having it be like a full medieval thing. The horses are always conveniently concealed from the chest down. But yeah, I think there was also a kind of intuitive feeling of it though that I really love with the movie. They really brought this out because it's a world that's both like set in the future. So they have this technology that is really advanced, but then it's also stuck in the past. They have this sort of, you know, like this royal kingdom and this hierarchy that is very, very traditional. And I think that spoke to some of what, you know, the heart of the characters and their arcs through the story, like their commitment to that tradition of the kind of chivalric, you know, knighthood of it all that is being kept kind of as a veneer in some ways. So yeah, like they really, really put so much more thought into that than I ever did when it came to designing the movie. And yeah, like it was really cool seeing the designers really just like treat it like this really fun playground and just run wild. And like I saw so many like exploratory shorts early on about just exploring this world and getting a feel of like what are the, you know, what's the subway like, what are the cars like all of these cool things that you see bits and pieces of in the movie that make it feel like this really rich fleshed out world.
Yeah, I love that. And also I think that like allegory of like being stuck in the, like, you know, we're in the future but being stuck in the past, I kind of also read that as like aligned with that trans allegory of what we're seeing now with the pushback and you know, a lot of the anti-trans legislation. And I work in schools, I'm seeing this a lot. So it's really, it was interesting to me. So I appreciated that. I wanted to know, Karen, like there's a lot of firsts in this film. Like we're seeing a lot, like we're seeing, you know, the same-sex couple kiss. We're seeing this sort of, this what I read is a trans character, but I'm curious, like, this is also the first animated kids and family film to feature a normalized, you know, same-sex relationship among its protagonists to like step into the protagonist is also like a historic step into sort of this trans realm. But I'm curious, like, why was this so important for you to, through all those setbacks, kind of keep going with this film and producing it? You spoke a little bit about that, but I want to know, like, what was that through line for you that kept you going and making this project and not sort of like throwing in the towel?
That's a great question. For us, there are firsts in this movie, but everything that we did is because it felt right to the characters. Like these are who they are. These are people, and this is their story. So for us, it was not a question of whether or not we could put this in kids and family. Like this is kids and family. This is everything, and this is people that we care about. These are these characters. So for us, so much of what we did on this movie is opening up the story to the entire crew. So anyone who was a part of this movie, we went to them. We didn't just ask for feedback. We wanted to find out personal experiences and stories and have people feel invested in the storytelling. And that's something I think animation does better than any other medium of filmmaking, because every single person who touches this doesn't just affect it, like they create it, they sculpt it themselves. So for us, we wanted all of those stories to be in the film. And as we did that, like the movie got more and more real to us in terms of telling the story of the crew who made it. So when you have that in there, like you cannot walk away from that. We were not going to let this die. We weren't going to stop telling this story. And I think there have been films in the past for kids and family entertainment that have made steps, and they've been great steps. And there have been characters who are wonderful, and there have been moments, but it was the first step. So for us, we needed to have this come out. We needed to make sure that this was something that was normalized and celebrated and was a joyous experience and wasn't a movie about struggling with who you are. That's something about these characters we found, and it was from the crew who put themselves in there, is that life shouldn't be that kind of a struggle. And so many of us, we like who we are. Like we love ourselves. We don't want to have to change, and we didn't want that to be the message. So that right there, how could you not want that to come out? So that just kind of, it's pretty simple. Like that story and the connections to the people we had on the film and each other is what made us want to keep going.
I love that answer. Yeah. I hope this really opens the door, like for more work, you know, in the kids and family realm with films that are sort of embracing LGBTQ storylines in this way. Cause I think it's really powerful. So thank you for doing that work. Thank you for not throwing in the towel, pushing forward. We got to have this amazing film on Netflix now. It's great. Eugene, I was just wondering if you all have any, and I guess I'm going to also kind of open this up a little bit, like any kind of direct impacts that you've heard from NIMONA for people either in the LGBTQ community or just fans of the graphic novel that then saw the film. I'm curious kind of what the feedback has been in your personal realms as well. I'll start with Eugene.
No, absolutely. I think that there's been such a wonderful response from particularly queer audiences. I think that kind of piggybacking off the last question, whether it's family and for kids, if it's in a genre that, you know, explores things like fantasy or sci-fi or stretches the imagination, and particularly animation, queer audiences, no matter what the age, are going to relate to a character. Like that is where our minds live, we have to be in our imaginations because we're expressing ourselves because we don't really see ourselves represented in these normal Joe Schmo characters. So half of it, you know, even half of Tolkien's catalog, they're all queer to me. So it's just one of those things where we're just like, the beauty of NIMONA is that it just very plainly states it up top and then just lets it live. And I think that's where the first impact point is. And then of course, the way that it takes the story into the climax. I think that what happens with NIMONA and Ballister's like beautiful moment of being seen, I think that is really where you know that this film is speaking to us. It's speaking to us in particular. It's made by us, by allies. It's speaking to that audience. And I really think that a lot of people who have talked to me about it, you know, across the you know, vibrant communities that we include within our queer spaces, they all have like some sort of connection to that feeling of what has saved me sometimes is just one person in my life saying that I see you and I recognize you. And it's as simple as that. And I think it's so beautifully done in the film. And to have people to have that sort of like conversation point in real life where they can refer to this, especially when they're younger and they're struggling with that. I think that's what I've come across most with audience reactions, is that they feel like they're being told that personally, that the film sees them, the filmmakers see them, ND sees them, I see them. And I think that's really beautiful because especially in these days, not everyone is being seen. They're trying to be made invisible. And I think that's why this film ended up being so important.
Yeah, I guess I'll open that same question up about what you all have heard in your communities about the impact of this film.
So I have like a pretty, I've seen the way that this movie has changed my own life. It's very interesting. I think, to start out and create such a personal character and a personal story, and then to sort of have that be interpreted and become this whole new thing, that it can be very scary, but it also is at a certain point, like, I'm being seen by the filmmakers. Like, and something happened that has been really profound for me, because my parents came to the US premiere in New York back in June, and the visit wasn't going very well. And so the next day was the screening, the premiere. And, I saw my parents cry watching this movie, and something changed. And, it had been something where, like, they didn't understand. They didn't understand why I was making the choice to be trans, to live as this person. Like, and it was not something that I was very successful at communicating. And so there was love, but there wasn't understanding. And then something about this movie, something shifted there in that relationship. And I think that they understood for the first time what is at stake when that understanding is not extended, that it isn't just like, oh, well, we don't really get it, but whatever. It's like how important it is. And I think that it's especially profound to me because when I was first making that comic and going through these messy feelings and struggling, I don't know that I ever told them what I was feeling. I don't think I ever asked for help. I don't know that they ever really knew. And so suddenly this movie, watching it with them, I felt like I'd seen it probably hundreds of times before that. And then suddenly I felt like I was being hit with this spotlight, and it was scary. But in the end, like, my parents and I had a conversation that we've never had before. And since then, like, something is changing, that like closeness is coming back, and they are, introducing me to their friends as their son and using my name and my pronouns in a way that, like, I am just really, really grateful to this movie. It is such a privilege to be able to put something like that out there and then like have it brought back to me by these incredible filmmakers who picked up those seeds that I didn't even know I was planting as a kid, and creating something like this. I have seen the change it's made in my life. And so I believe that it's powerful in that it not just speaks to people who feel different, but it can create conversations with people who love someone who feels that way. And I've seen how powerful that can be. So I really just I want to see this movie like have that kind of reach and be able to create those kind of conversations wherever possible.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to do that. And I'm so happy too that you were able to have that journey right with NIMONA and then have that impact in your life. But yeah, I'm excited for young audience to see this. As someone who works, with schools, I'm like, I want the GSAs to be watching this as a group. Karen, any response to that?
Oh man, like this movie has meant so much to us for so long. We've been working on it in this little bubble. So to see people connect to it and to get that from it and to have like a language to talk about things where maybe they couldn't talk about it before, and just feel seen. Like there's nothing greater for a storyteller than that. Like, and I'm going to get emotional, but I'll stop. So the movie's out, like we just want people to see it and want people to embrace this type of film and to make more of it. And now, like, not only did we finished it, we got it to the world, but it's getting nominations and like people are embracing us. And that's just like, to us, it's a huge honor, but it's like such a statement of support for what this movie is. And so like for us, the gift was making a film, but these nominations and these wins are just more opportunities for us to say, please watch this, please share this with your friends, and like, let this be something that gets more content like this out there, because this should be the majority voice. Like this should be what we're all supporting, what we're doing as an industry. And our movie is just one little step towards that. So we're taking every opportunity we can to keep saying that and just keep getting the word out to watch the film.
Yeah, and I hope that the one final thing is that the message is it's so rare to have a film where the team behind it and the protagonists go through a similar struggle, like getting something, fighting against all odds to make something happen. And it is, as Karen said, it is so hard to make films in this industry or TV. Things are canceled constantly. And for this to go from even just like a webcomic to being nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, having the most Annie Awards nominations, that should inspire young artists, especially young queer artists, to know that every piece of work they make, whether they're 5 years old, whether they're 50 years old, it matters, and it can still get to this point because the industry is changing, but we are the ones who have to be the change makers. So I really hope that NIMONA becomes like a flashpoint for that, where people can refer to it and say, hey, I saw that NIMONA was able to do it. I can bring my ideas to life too.
Yes.
Well said, Eugene.
And had the most Annie nominations of any animated film feature this year. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And a great message, Eugene. I think that's a that's a kind of great note to wrap on. I wanted to know, I think we're out of time. I was going to ask you in a one word, can you all tell me if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Shape-shifting.
We saw that one coming.
What's yours, Karen?
I would say flight. I want to fly.
Oh, mine would probably be immortality. Is that evil?
Forever.
This is the most chaotic superhero team up of all time.
This is the most evil answer I could have said. Yeah, I love flying. Love it.
That's a good one.
Dude, how about you?
I would probably time travel, which I think is why I loved the whole like futuristic medieval. I felt like it was like pulling in both directions. I would like to live in that space. I like that reality. You know, I would live in NIMONA. I think that sounds fun. But thank you all so much for being here and having this conversation with me. I do want to say that this is NIMONA streaming on YouTube now until February 26th. So it's up there on YouTube. Go watch it. It's really, really, really incredible. Thank you, ND, Karen, Eugene, for being here, having this conversation. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This was awesome. We should just do this weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too,
Seconds. I agree. All right.
Bye,
Bye everyone.